A few months ago, when the Celtics acquired Kristaps Porzingis, the NBA community went wild. I mean, with a unicorn now playing alongside Tatum and Brown, there was nothing nobody could really do to touch them. They instantly became the favorites to come out of the East. Then, more recently, Milwaukee, out of nowhere, completely stunned the world when they recruited Dame Time to play alongside the Greek Freak. With this acquisition, the Bucks now have two legitimate superstars and, on paper at least, are the best team in the East. After that latest offseason splash, I thought the storm had finally passed, and honestly, I was just counting how many more days were left until the 2024 season started, but have
some breaking Celtics news to report. Adrian Wojnarowski reporting the Celtics have acquired guard Drew Holiday.
Yeah, I know. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all thinking the same thing. At this point in time, the Eastern Conference is broken.
For 4 or 5 years, there was a media run, and there was a hype train of a franchise running through, which were the Warriors.
Yeah.
Y'all won a lot of championship, but it was lame as...
First off, Evan Turner is such a hater. But second off, what he spoke of is happening again before our very eyes. Two unstoppable Titans have appeared in the Eastern Conference, and in the blink of an eye, every team that's on the right side of Illinois, not named the Bucks or Celtics, have become practically irrelevant. If you're a fan of any other teams in this conference, I do apologize, but just like how no Eastern teams were getting by the LeBron James-led Cavs, or how no Western teams were getting by the Kevin Durant-led Warriors in the late 2010s. No Eastern Conference teams are going to get by the two behemoths, which now stand head and shoulders above the rest. I mean, on one hand, you have Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, and Holiday, 4 all-star caliber players who are all in the prime. Then on the other hand, you have Giannis and Dame Time, 2 legitimate superstars who could both take over games single-handedly. Just looking at the field, there isn't a single Eastern Conference team that appears to be capable of putting up a fight against these two. The 76ers process is completely broken, and they're practically a joke right now. James Harden is once again starring in his annual soap opera as the main protagonist, and Joel Embiid, well, not only did he just prove that he once again can't do anything in the playoffs against elite teams, but it seems from his recent tweet that he submitted his resignation for the year already. Then, the Miami Heat. Well, one Redditor recently suggested that in order for them to compete now, they're gonna have to start their practice at 2 a.m. instead of 3 a.m., and have their practice sessions at sauna-level temperatures, and lower their body fat requirement to 5%. All jokes aside, as much as I love Jimmy Buckets, the South Beach team just doesn't have the pieces to contend, and not even Miami Heat culture at this point is gonna make a difference. And then from that point onwards, I feel this clip here really portrays the sentiments of the East.
Is there no one else?
Like, seriously, guys, who else is there? Trae Young and the Hawks?
Bruh.
Julius Randle and the Knicks?
Bruh.
Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs?
Bruh.
Looking down the list, there's nothing. Not a soul in the East can really contend with the Celtics and the Bucks. And the scary truth of it is, it's not just this year either. This quote-unquote block is going to last for several years. I mean, Porzingis is finalizing an extension with the Celtics, and the reports are saying that Holiday is also going through an extension process at the moment. Then when it comes to the Bucks, all signs are pointing towards Lillard and Giannis signing extensions in Milwaukee, which means no other Eastern teams are going to be relevant for arguably up to half a decade. Or are they? Am I getting ahead of myself? Ladies and gentlemen, here's where things get good. One important question every team in the East now has to ask themselves is, what now? Where do we go from here? If you're the Detroit Pistons or the Orlando Magic, the answer is easy. Develop the lottery talents, get into the playoffs, and gain experience. I mean, they're still young, they weren't in any championship conversations to begin with, so nothing really changes for them. But what if you were the Knicks? What if you were the 76ers, the Bulls, etc., etc., etc.? What do you do now? Well, here's where things could get potentially interesting. It's pretty clear at this point that these teams stand no chance of winning, but that doesn't mean they don't have actionable steps they could take to spice things up in the East. And let me show you what I mean by looking at a few options hanging out there that could potentially stir up some ruckus. Okay, so James Harden already stated that he wants no part of any organizations that Daryl Morey is a part of. He might show up to training camp and start the season, but I foresee a version of Harden that hurts the team more than it helps. Then, if Harden is gone, the big question is, what about Joel Embiid? Well, he's already taken off the 76ers logo from his social media accounts, and reports have him vaguely linked with the New York Knicks. Now, I know they still aren't a powerhouse like the Celtics or Bucks yet, but a combination of Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and Joel Embiid is at least the start of something that could be interesting. The Chicago Bulls are in a precarious situation as well. Their big three of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic aren't going to be contending for anything anymore, so chances are the Bulls are going to be blowing that up too. And that begs the question, where will Zach LaVine go? He's not a full-fledged superstar just yet, and doesn't quote-unquote move the needle significantly by himself. But if he were paired up with the right players and the right team, the landscape could change. Like, what if he were to join Embiid in New York? Well, then we'd really have something interesting. Or what if he joins Jimmy Buckets in Miami? Well, that'd be worth talking about as well. From how this offseason progressed, it's clear that nobody has any idea on what could potentially happen. But in saying that, one thing is for sure, something's going to happen sooner or later because, well, history has shown us that with unstoppable teams comes a rebellion. Like the 2018 Houston Rockets, for example. When the Durant and Curry-led Warriors were, per Evan Turner, having their media run and dominating the entire conference and NBA for that matter, the Houston Rockets put a team together for the one specific purpose of taking them down. Or the 2019 Toronto Raptors as well. They knew they had to do something to get over the hump, so they acquired a mercenary at the time, Kawhi Leonard, to come in for a one-year hit job. But anyway, back to the present day and back to reality. I may have given a bit of false hope because, honestly, teams can try and wiggle around and do a little dance to make things mildly interesting, but here's why it's probably not going to work. You see, both the Celtics and the Bucks are practically assembled perfectly. I mean, you can't bring a group of players together more perfectly than these organizations have. Like, let's look at the facts. They both have a top 5 player in the league. They both have all defensive players in the roster. They both have complementary players who can get buckets. And they both have proven players coming off the bench as well. Then on top of all this, these two organizations both have recent finals experience as well. So, other teams in the East can try to put together teams to contend, but it's going to take an absolute miracle to piece together a team that could match these two. For those reasons, I don't think it's going to happen. At this point, the East is going to be broken for years to come, and I feel like the Celtics and the Bucks are practically saying this to the rest of the conference.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?